Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the book Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's gotten a lot of praise from some pretty big names like Cal Newport, Robert Greene.
Yeah, he's great.
But, like, what is it about this book that's making it such a hit?
Well, the core idea that Holiday puts forward is that stillness isn't just like peace and quiet. It's actually like a skill, almost like a superpower for navigating the chaos of modern life.
Okay.
And he makes the case that it's the key to achieving peak performance and, finding real happiness.
I mean, that sounds great in theory, but, like, the world feels anything but still right now.
Exactly, and that's what's so interesting about this book. He doesn't just stick to one philosophy, he goes into Stoicism. He talks about Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and he shows how this idea of stillness shows up across cultures and all throughout history as a way to live a more fulfilling life.
So almost like a universal principle in a way.
Yeah, and he breaks it down into 3 parts. You've got mind, spirit, and body, because they're all connected when it comes to finding this stillness.
Interesting. So where does he even start with all of that?
He kicks off with the mind.
Okay.
And he uses a really surprising example, that the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, wow.
You've got John F. Kennedy. The world is literally on the brink of nuclear war.
Right.
But instead of panicking, he stays calm.
Right.
Thinks things through and avoids making a rash decision that could have been catastrophic.
I mean, that's a pretty intense example.
Right.
Like, how can we as regular people learn to, be that
Yeah.
still under that kind of pressure?
Well, that's where the book gets really practical. Holiday says it all starts with being present, really being in the moment.
Yeah.
He even compares it to, that performance artist, Marina Abramović. You remember her piece, The Artist is Present?
Oh, yeah, where she, sat for hours just connecting with whoever sat across from her.
Yeah, it was this crazy, intense exercise in focus and presence.
Yeah.
And, how do we even apply that to our daily lives?
Right.
Well, Holiday says it's all about consciously limiting our inputs.
Okay.
Think about it. We are bombarded with information, constantly.
Oh, yeah.
He uses examples like Napoleon, who would wait to read his mail to avoid feeling overwhelmed.
Oh.
Or Eisenhower, who is super ruthless about prioritizing his tasks.
So basically being intentional with what we let into our minds?
Exactly. We have more control than we think, Instead of just constantly reacting to the news or social media, we can choose what we consume and when. It's like we can build a filter for our attention.
I like that. And speaking of, finding things that can inspire us and motivate us, I actually want to take a quick second to mention the Affirmify Journey YouTube channel.
Oh, yeah, they have some great stuff.
It's a fantastic resource for motivational content that can really help you, take control of your mindset and your actions.
I love that.
So definitely check that out. But limiting those inputs is just the beginning, right? There's more to cultivating stillness than just that.
Absolutely. And Holiday goes into practices like journaling.
Yeah.
He points out that so many important figures throughout history kept journals, Anne Frank, Marcus Aurelius, Queen Victoria, even Leonardo da Vinci. They all used journaling as a way to process their experiences, to find clarity, and really to get to know themselves better.
Yeah, it could be so powerful. It's almost like you're having a conversation with yourself, but on paper.
Exactly. And that leads us to another really key practice, cultivating silence. Holiday talks about the composer John Cage, who actually advocated for a national day of silence.
Wow.
I know it sounds kind of crazy, but he even wrote a piece of music that is literally just silence.
Wow.
It's called 4 Foot 33, and it's this really interesting way of challenging our ideas about what is sound and what is stillness.
Yeah, like a whole day of silence. That's pretty radical, but I think I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
Silence can be really profound in a way. It allows us to kind of hear our own inner voice more clearly.
It's not just about turning down the volume,
Right.
know? It's about creating space for deeper reflection and for really connecting with ourselves.
Yeah, and that kind of connects to the next idea that Holiday talks about, the pursuit of wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not just about being quiet, it's about actively seeking out knowledge.
Yeah, it's about seeking wisdom, which is kind of knowledge applied to life. Holiday uses the story of Zeno, the founder of Stoicism.
Okay.
And Zeno actively sought out a teacher after encountering philosophical teachings, and it highlights how important it is to find mentors and guides on our own journey of learning.
So it's about being open to learning, to asking questions, and to challenging our own assumptions.
Yeah, exactly. And Holiday reminds us that this pursuit of wisdom isn't always comfortable.
Oh, for sure.
Sometimes it means confronting uncomfortable truths and really expanding our perspective.
That makes total sense. It's like growing pains for the mind. But once we start achieving that inner stillness,
Yeah.
Are we good then, or is there more?
Oh, there's more.
Okay.
Holiday argues that true stillness also involves finding a balance between confidence and ego.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about feeling good about ourselves. There's more nuance to it than that.
Yeah, he contrasts figures like David, who had this quiet confidence that was based on his experiences, with those like Alexander the Great or Howard Hughes, whose egos ultimately led to their downfalls.
So it's about confidence that's rooted in self-awareness, not in arrogance.
Exactly. And he even brings in the idea of imposter syndrome as another manifestation of insecurity.
Oh, wow.
True confidence comes from honestly assessing our strengths and weaknesses and being open to growth.
That's a really good point. So stillness of mind is about being present, filtering information, reflecting, seeking wisdom, and defining the genuine confidence. It's a lot.
It is. It's definitely a journey, not a destination. But, this is just the first part. Holiday then dives into what he calls the domain of the soul, which is where things get even more interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So, we spent some time talking about stillness of the mind.
Right.
But Holiday kind of shifts gears and dives into what he calls the domain of the soul.
Okay, so we're going beyond just our thoughts now, getting into something deeper?
Yeah, it's about cultivating inner strength and resilience. But it's not just through mental toughness,
Right.
It's about ethics, values, and really understanding ourselves.
Okay.
And he starts with a kind of surprising example. Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods, like the golfer.
Yeah.
What does he have to do with stillness?
Well, he's this perfect example of someone who mastered stillness on the golf course, but really struggled with it in his personal life.
Right.
Holiday contrasts Tiger's incredible mental game, with the inner turmoil that he was facing from childhood wounds and unchecked desires.
That's a good point. I mean, he was so focused, so driven, but it seems like it came at a cost.
Exactly. And Holiday uses Tiger's story to highlight the importance of developing a strong moral compass.
Okay.
He argues that true strength comes not just from discipline, but from cultivating virtues like patience, kindness, honesty, and courage.
So it's about more than just winning. It's about how we win.
Right. He contrasts Tiger with someone like Jackie Robinson, who faced intense racism and hate, but chose to respond with dignity and restraint.
Right.
He chose the harder path, but ultimately helped break down barriers in baseball.
Jackie Robinson's story is so powerful, so inspiring.
And it shows, how inner strength comes from making ethical choices, even when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
And those choices, even when nobody's watching, are what shape our character and our ability to handle challenges in life.
It makes you think what choices are we making when no one's looking?
Right.
Do they line up with our values?
That's the self-reflection that Holiday's encouraging. And it kind of leads to this other key aspect of this domain of the soul. Coming to terms with our past, he brings up Leonardo da Vinci.
Da Vinci, what does he have to do with this?
Well, da Vinci was illegitimate and disinherited. And Holiday argues that, these early experiences, they deeply impacted his relationships and even his art.
So even someone as brilliant as Da Vinci was carrying, baggage from his past?
It highlights how unresolved wounds from our childhood can unconsciously shape our behavior and our decisions as adults. It's not about dwelling on the past,
Right.
but understanding how it might be influencing our present.
That's a tough one. But I see how it's important. You can't really move forward until you acknowledge what's holding you back.
And that connects to the next part, being aware of our desires.
Okay.
Holiday argues that unchecked desires, even for good things, can trap us in this cycle of dissatisfaction.
It's like that saying, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Exactly. We're always wanting what we don't have.
Yeah.
He uses JFK again as an example. Even with all of his accomplishments, he struggled with personal appetites that ultimately undermined him.
It's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others.
Right.
I mean, social media definitely doesn't help.
Oh, yeah.
How do we break free from that?
Well, Holiday suggests a Stoic practice called negative visualization.
Okay.
It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but it involves imagining losing the things that you value most.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds kind of crazy, but it helps cultivate gratitude and contentment for what you already have.
So by imagining the worst case scenario, you appreciate what you have even more.
Yeah, it shifts your perspective, and it leads to this idea of embracing enough.
Okay.
He quotes Lao Tzu, who said, "When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you."
Wow, that's a beautiful quote.
Right, but in today's world, we're bombarded with messages telling us we need more, more, more.
Oh, yeah, constantly.
And it's about rejecting that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Holiday points to people like Joseph Heller, who wrote Catch-22, and John Stuart Mill, the philosopher.
Yeah.
They achieved success, but they didn't stop there.
Right.
They continued creating meaningful work.
Yeah.
Because fulfillment comes from the journey, not just the destination.
That's so inspiring. Success doesn't have to be this end goal. It can be a continuous process.
Exactly. And then finally, in this exploration of the soul, Holiday brings in the transformative power of beauty.
Beauty, how does that fit in with stillness?
He uses Anne Frank's diary as an example.
Okay.
Even while she was in hiding, she found solace in nature.
Yeah.
She wrote about the beauty of the sky, the trees, the changing seasons.
That's so powerful. Even in the face of, unimaginable suffering, she found moments of beauty and peace.
And Holiday argues that beauty, whether it's in art or nature or even just everyday life, it uplifts our spirits, it inspires awe, and it connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
It's like beauty can remind us that even in the midst of chaos, there's still wonder and goodness in the world.
Yeah, and that sense of wonder and connection, it's like an antidote to the noise and distractions of modern life. It's a key part of cultivating stillness, not just in our minds, but in our souls.
So this domain of the soul, it's about cultivating inner peace and strength.
Yeah.
It's about aligning our actions with our values, understanding our past, managing our desires, and appreciating beauty. That's a lot.
It is, and there's still one more piece to explore: the body.
Okay.
Holiday argues that you can't achieve true stillness without addressing the physical aspect as well.
Okay, so we've covered stillness of the mind and the soul, but where does the body fit into all of this?
Well, that's the final piece of the puzzle. Holiday argues that, our physical well-being is totally connected to our mental and spiritual states.
Yeah, makes sense. We all feel that mind-body connection, but where do we even begin with that?
He uses Winston Churchill as an example.
Okay.
He wasn't just, a wartime leader. He had this super diverse and disciplined routine, writing, painting, bricklaying, and he made sure to spend time in nature.
So it's about finding that balance between structured activity and rest.
Exactly. And it goes back to that ancient Greek idea, skole, leisure time dedicated to learning and pursuing your interests, not just vegging out,
Right.
Our bodies need exertion and rest to thrive.
Yeah. I like that, finding a rhythm that works for you, so it's not about pushing ourselves to the limit 24/7.
No, Holiday emphasizes pacing ourselves and practicing restraint.
Okay.
He uses the Roman general Fabius as an example. He was actually nicknamed the Delayer.
The delayer.
Because he avoided direct confrontation with Hannibal.
Wait, he delayed fighting Hannibal? That seems kind of risky.
It was a strategy by, choosing strategic withdrawal and waiting for the right moment.
Okay.
Fabius wore down his enemy and eventually won.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes the wisest course of action is to hold back, conserve your energy, and choose your battles.
It's like that tortoise and the hare story, slow and steady wins the race.
Right, but in our world, everyone's rushing around trying to do everything at once, and that's where the skill of saying no comes in.
Right.
And setting boundaries. Holiday talks about the downfall of American Apparel's founder, Dov Charney. He was like a total workaholic, couldn't delegate, was constantly sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And it really contributed to the company's struggles.
It's like a cautionary tale showing how overwork and burnout can be really damaging.
Totally. And it highlights how important it is to protect our time and our well-being.
Right.
Saying no isn't selfish. It's about making sure we can really show up for the things that matter.
So taking care of our physical needs allows us to be more present and effective in other areas of life.
Exactly. And to support this, Holiday suggests something super simple but powerful: walking.
Walking, really.
He talks about the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, who used long walks to process his thoughts, to find inspiration, and even to help with his anxiety.
It's it. Walking, it seems almost too easy.
But think about it. Tons of thinkers, artists, innovators have found walking to be super beneficial.
Yeah.
It's not just good for your physical health,
Right.
but it creates mental space for reflection, creativity, and problem solving.
I see how that ties into the stillness idea, quieting the mind and letting ideas flow.
And it leads to this broader point about building routines and rituals.
Yeah.
Holiday describes Fred Rogers's meticulous daily routine.
Oh, wow.
Even small rituals like making your bed or having a cup of tea can bring structure and focus to your day.
Rituals can be really grounding. It's like setting an intention.
Exactly. And he also mentions basketball player Russell Westbrook's elaborate pregame rituals.
Okay.
It's a way to prepare mentally and physically for like peak performance.
Right.
Rituals, when you do them with intention, can elevate everyday activities,
It's like taking something ordinary and making it sacred.
Exactly. But Holiday also cautions against escapism.
Okay.
He talks about the writer John Fonte, whose struggles with alcoholism and other forms of escape really hindered his writing.
So it's not about numbing ourselves out. It's about finding healthy ways to recharge.
It's about facing our challenges head on, not trying to run away from them.
I see.
And finally, Holiday reminds us of the one thing we all have to face: death. He shares stories of figures like Marcus Aurelius, Buddha, Epicurus, who all faced their mortality with wisdom and grace.
It's a heavy topic, but an important one. It reminds us that life is precious and we shouldn't waste it.
It's a call to live fully in the present moment, to make the most of our time, and approach life's challenges with this kind of acceptance.
So stillness is the key. It's about way more than just finding quiet time. It's about cultivating stillness in all parts of our lives. Mind, spirit, and body.
It's a lifelong journey, not a quick fix.
Definitely a lot to think about. And for those of you who are looking for more resources on this topic, I highly recommend checking out lingopediamagazine.com.
It's a great resource.
They offer courses and ebooks that can really help you deepen your understanding of these concepts.
For sure.
And as always, we encourage you to subscribe, share, and like this deep dive so we can keep exploring these topics.
Absolutely.
So one last question for you all. How can you incorporate the principles of stillness into your own life?
Yeah.
What steps can you take today to cultivate more peace and purpose?
Good question.
Until next time, embrace the journey towards stillness.